Angela McRobbie's Postmodernism and Popular Culture. Postmodernism as a new approach to popular culture. The author begins by arguing that postmodernism is useful for analyzing popular culture. So here is a key idea is that earlier theories, especially structuralism, focused on isolated texts or images. But postmodernism studies how images interact with each other across media. The important points are structuralist criticism analyzed single text carefully. But postmodernism looks at multiple fragmented images circulating in culture. Cultural meaning now comes from interactions between media forms. So, the concept is that postmodern culture is characterized by fragmentation and multiplicity of perspectives rather than a single authoritative interpretation. Criticism of structuralism. McRobbie criticizes structuralist and semiotic approaches for several limitations. First of all, the problem with structuralism is its focus on elite text. Structuralists mainly analyzed high modernist writers such as James Joyce, Stephen Mallarmé. സ്ട്രക്ചറലിസത്തിൻ്റെ ഒരു കുഴപ്പമെന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഹൈ ആൻഡ് ലോ ആർട്ട് എന്നുള്ളൊരു വ്യത്യാസം ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. പക്ഷേ പോസ്റ്റ് മോഡേണിസത്തിലേക്ക് വരുമ്പോൾ ആ ഒരു ഡിഫറൻസ് ഇല്ല. നെക്സ്റ്റ്, ഹൈറാർക്കി ഓഫ് കൾച്ചറൽ ഫോംസ്. ഹൈ ആർട്ട് ഇസ് വാല്യൂഡ് മോർ ദാൻ പോപ്പുലർ കൾച്ചർ. കൾച്ചറൽ ഹൈറാർക്കി എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഹൈ ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ, ഹോളിവുഡ് ഫിലിംസ്, അഡ്വർടൈസിങ്, മാഗസീൻസ്. അങ്ങനെ വരുമ്പോൾ ദർ ഇസ് നെഗ്ലക്റ്റ് ഓഫ് അതർ കൾച്ചറൽ ഫോംസ്, മ്യൂസിക്, ഡാൻസ്, ഫ്യൂഷൻ, യൂത്ത് കൾച്ചർ. So the conclusion is that structuralism unintentionally reproduces the old division between high culture and popular culture. Next, postmodernism and pop culture. McRobbie argues that postmodernism emerged partly from pop culture itself. The cultural historian Andreas Hussein notes that pop culture shaped the idea of postmodernism. So the important argument is postmodernism challenges modernism's hostility to mass culture. So the features of pop culture and then it combines many forms simultaneously: music, performance, video, fashion, magazines, advertising. Example, rock performers communicate through multimedia expression. Next, limitation of traditional cultural analysis. So the essay argues that traditional criticism ignores important aspects of culture. Structuralist analysis focuses on text, symbols, and signs and ignores audience, consumers, economic context, and commodity circulation. So here the important concept is meaning is not only inside text, it is also shaped by assumption, media context, and audience interpretation. Postmodernism reintroduces social context. Postmodernism allows scholars to reconnect cultural analysis with real social conditions. These include consumer culture, economic conditions, audience responses, everyday life. So here the key argument is media imagery has become so powerful that it interrogates every aspect of daily life. Dick Hebditch and Subculture Studies. McRobbie praises the work of Dick Hebditch, especially his book Subculture, The Meaning of Style. Very important. So, importance of Hebditch's work. Hebditch analyzed everyday objects and styles as meaningful cultural signs. He studied clothing, music, youth style, attitude, subcultures. For example, punk fashion becomes a symbolic form of resistance. His contribution was he brought popular culture onto the same analytical level as literature and art. Debate on postmodern style. Later, Hebditch criticized postmodern culture for being overly stylish, artificial, superficial, politically disengaged. He argued that scholars should return to real social issues such as poverty, oppression, exploitation. Fragmented identity in postmodernism. Postmodernism suggests that stable identity has disappeared. The Marxist critic Frederick Jameson describes this as a death of subjectivity, meaning modern individuals experience fragmented identity, cultural disorientation, and social schizophrenia. However, McRobbie argues that these cultural surfaces, fashion, pop, style, reflect deeper social realities. Postmodern culture and social conditions. The author connects postmodern aesthetics with the real social conditions such as unemployment, education changes, globalization, marginalized voices. Key point: the postmodernism allows new voices to emerge. Groups previously excluded from dominant narratives can now speak. For example, minorities, youth cultures, post colonial societies. Spread of postmodernism. Postmodernism spread rapidly beyond academia. It appears in art criticism, political theory, fashion magazines, record sleeves, youth culture publications. So, this shows the flexibility and widespread influence of the concept. Next, Baudrillard and media saturation. Important topic. The theorist Jean Baudrillard describes the modern media as instantaneity of communication, meaning media images now invade spaces that were once private. Media creates continuous communication, constant flow of images, disappearance of private psychological space. So, Baudrillard calls this as the ecstasy of communication. He views this process pessimistically. Political potential of media. McRobbie disagrees with Baudrillard's pessimism. She argues that media expansion can have positive political effects. For example, South African apartheid. Media images of protest in Soweto influenced youth culture internationally. Images of resistance helped create global solidarity movements. This is what Hebditch jokingly called the Soweto Dash. Meaning, media images inspire political identification across nations. Media spectacle and implosion. However, media also turns events into spectacles. Examples mentioned are illness of Ronald Reagan presented like a TV drama, terrorism staged for media visibility. This leads to what Baudrillard calls implosion. The boundary between reality and the media representation collapses. Image dominance. In postmodern society, image dominate reality. It becomes difficult to distinguish between reality and representation, society and media, experience and simulation. Next, self-referential media. The writer Umberto Eco distinguishes between paleo TV and neo TV. Next important topic. Paleo TV means older television that talked about the external world. Neo TV, modern television that talks mainly about itself, other TV programs, media events, for example, TV shows discussing other TV shows. Media interdependence. Modern media forms feed off each other. For examples, newspapers report on TV shows, magazines analyze TV characters, TV promotes pop music. So this shows the economic and cultural integration of media industries. So the key concepts from the essay are fragmentation, multiplicity of meanings, collapse of high or low culture divide, media saturation, intertextuality, self-referential media, image dominance, global media politics. So, Angela McRobbie argues that postmodernism provides a better framework for analyzing contemporary popular culture than criticism. ക്രിറ്റിസിസത്തിനെക്കാട്ടിലും വളരെ നന്നായിട്ട് പോപ്പുലർ കൾച്ചർ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മാസ് കൾച്ചറിനെ അനലൈസ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് പോസ്റ്റ് മോഡേണിസത്തിന് സാധിക്കുന്നു. While structuralism focuses on isolated things and high culture, postmodernism examines a complex network of media images circulating through everyday life. അതായത് ജനങ്ങളിലേക്ക് ആഴ്ന്നിറങ്ങിച്ചെന്ന് എല്ലാ കാര്യങ്ങളും ഹൈ ലോ എന്നുള്ളൊരു ഡിഫറൻസ് ഇല്ലാതെ എല്ലാം നോക്കിക്കാണുന്നു. In a world dominated by mass media, images interact with each other across different platforms, creating fragmented identities and blurred boundaries between reality and representation. Although theorists like Baudrillard see this media saturation as negative, Macrobi suggests that it can also produce new political possibilities such as global solidarities formed through media images.